Welcome to the Prophecy Club. I've got Brian Melvin on the phone with me again today. In case you don't recall, he's the guy that died for 4 hours and went to hell. And then a couple of years later, the Lord called him up to heaven and showed him heaven for an hour. So he spent 4 hours in hell and 1 hour in heaven. And he's going to be speaking Sunday morning, April 30th, Prophecy Club, 2540 K Avenue in Plano, corner of Park and K. We ask you to be seated at 8:30. He'll speak from 9 to noon. No charge. He's going to talk on Hell in a Box and From Hell to Heaven. That DVD, gift of 30. Then his book, A Land Unknown, Hell's Dominion, available for a gift of $20. Both of them for a gift of $40 at prophecyclub.com, 785-266-1112. So, Brian Melvin, welcome back to the Prophecy Club.
It's good to be back, Stan. How are you doing today?
Good. Okay, so give us a brief overview of what you've talked about, your trip to hell, and then we're going to jump to what happened in heaven.
Yes, I was a militant atheist way back when I was younger, and worked at a construction site, drank bad water. There I contracted cholera and had an experience of dying, saw hell, and where I left off last time, and I was talking about seeing some telephone poles in hell, and I just have to ask the people to come to the meeting to find out how it goes from there and how the Lord rescued me from the bowels of hell, what it was like. I'll just share briefly a little bit about it. I was rescued by the Lord, and I was being ready to be thrown into this last cell, this last cube, and I felt His presence come down and was shaking the ground, and the demons were running scared, and the Lord picked me up in His arms, and I don't know how to explain this. When you realize that you don't deserve to come back. When you lift me up, I saw the nail prints were right through his wrist, and the bones were pulled apart, like the Bible says, his bones pulled out of a joint for us. You don't know how that made me feel, to be pulled out of hell, being held by the Lord, and I wept on his shoulder like I've never cried before in my life. I came back. He took me right back through the middle of hell, so to speak, right back to where it all started, back to that rock. He spoke to me, he blew on me, and I came back into my body. Then a neighbor found me, and I was taken to a hospital in Tucson, Arizona, where I recovered. You can find out more at the upcoming meeting. More on this. I got to collect myself for a minute to get rid of the tears out of my eyes for a second here.
Okay, let me just mute him and just remind you, while he collects himself, where he's going to be speaking. That's Sunday morning, April 30th, Prophecy Club, 2540 K Avenue. Be seated at 8:30, please, and speaking from 9 to noon, no charge. Brian, back to you.
Yes, I remember when I got back from the hospital, I came back, I sat down in a beanbag chair, and that's how I got born again. I said, Lord Jesus, come into my life. I'm yours. Save me. I never want to go back to that awful place. And that's how I got born again and saved, because I felt this rushing wind come inside of me, a cool breeze, and I knew I got born again, and my life hasn't been the same since. But I got to tell you, Stan, and tell the audience too, after seeing hell, I was very shook up. Wouldn't anyone be shook up if you saw hell, a place like that, and be rescued like I was? I didn't ask for any of this. And I kept so quiet about it for years and years. I kept quiet about seeing this place. After all, I would think, who would believe me? I mean, I'd walk places, Stan, I'm not kidding. I'd walk in places, and the sights and the sounds and the smells that I come into contact with would trigger memories. And sometimes they still do. I hear something, I smell something, and I'm instantly taken back. For example, I was babysitting my grandnephew, who was an infant at that time. He was about maybe 3 years old. And their parents had these monster bowling ball and set there, and these little bowling pins looked like little monsters. And here I am with this little kid, and I'm looking at these bowling pins, and all of a sudden I'm drifting, I'm going back. And I had to literally say, name of Jesus, this is not going to happen. And it didn't. I collected myself and put the little boy in the crib. He was all excited. He wanted to play, and got him calmed down. He went back to sleep, but I had to put those bowling pins away and just out of sight. So things like that would just trigger memories. And then I suffered nightmares, all kinds of things, and I kept so quiet about it. And all these things, after I became a Christian, became born again, drove me to serve God with an utter vengeance. I wanted to serve God like I never had before. I worked and worked, simply to drown out what I knew. And I was too afraid to tell people, because when you see a place, nobody like hell, nobody's going to believe you. And people are going to mock you and make fun of you. And it was like, I had to come to terms with that. And so what I did was I witnessed, I became part of a street revival, a little town in Fort Collins, for about 2.5 years. 2 guys, or 3 of us involved, and eventually just me and another guy. We took care of a street revival. I was in a praise band. I ran the soundboard. I played the guitar. I became the head intercessor at a church. And my motto was I was so busy doing things. I was in a lot of turmoil, so much turmoil, seeing hell and being so busy as a bee just to cover up what I felt inside. We just got finished at church having a big, huge meeting going on, this big meeting, big revival meeting at a church. And so at about the 3rd or 4th day of it, I think it was the 4th day, a Sunday night, and I had to get up real early in the morning to go to work. I had about an hour drive into town, so I had to get up super early, around 4:30 in the morning, and I wanted to get done. No, we had 30 baptisms to do that night. I was running the soundboard, then I got stuck. Yeah, after I cleaned up from the soundboard, I got home late around 3 a.m. and I had to let the dog out and I had to do all this stuff, and I was in a very bad mood, very unchristian mood actually, and I tried to get some rest, but I wasn't in a holy mood at all. I wasn't even looking for anything to happen. I was just really tired of working myself to death, trying to forget everything that I saw, trying to serve Jesus Christ with a vengeance. I was simply restless because of all the things that were hitting my mind that I was going through, like, why me? Why did I see this place? Why did I go to hell? Why did I see this awful place? And the most thing that really bothered me the most, and I had to come to terms with it, and the Lord had to help me come to terms with, is I don't deserve to come back. Again, that just nailed my head all the time. It was like, I don't deserve to even be here. I don't. And then it happened. Something happened. The Lord, that night when I wasn't even looking for it, when all these thoughts were in my mind, like I'm not supposed to be here. Why? Why this? Why me? I'm just the average Joe. I'm nobody special. And then it happened. The Lord did something to calm me down about seeing hell. What He did was to show me heaven. Then it happened. If it was a vision, or if I actually translate it to heaven, I'll let you guys to decide. But measure anything that anyone says with the Bible. And so there I was sitting and trying to lie down on my bed, trying to get just maybe a half hour to 2 hours worth of rest, when the room suddenly exploded in this brilliant light. And I was really groggy and very annoyed, and I just heard this resounding voice saying, "Awake, rise, stand to your feet." Those are the exact words, and guess what I did? I said, "I need sleep, leave me alone." And then I snapped out of it, and the room was dark, and I'm going, wow, it must have been a dream. My dog was very excited, wagging her tail, staring at somebody standing in the hallway, and in the moonlight there, and I couldn't figure out, oh, what is this? This must be a dream. And then the room had an electric feel to it. I laid back down, and it happened again. The light shone bright and said, "Awake, rise, stand to your feet." And guess what I did? I said, "I need rest. Leave me alone." And then it got dark again. My dog was really happy to see somebody, and I couldn't see anybody in the room, so I turned the light back off, and I went to lie back down. There was a presence of holiness in the room, and you'd think that somebody like me would, be receptive to that. No, I just was all groggy and just grouchy. And then I looked again, and I said to him, I looked at my dog, and it looked like somebody was petting my dog, and it was a German Shepherd, and her ears were going down, and she's just sitting there panting like somebody was petting her. And then all of a sudden, it lit up again and said, "Awake, rise to your feet." And this time, I listened. And then all of a sudden I heard the still, quiet voice, the voice of the Lord, just really speak to me, still, quiet voice. He said, do you remember how you left before? And I said, yes. So I laid back down on my bed. As soon as my bed hit the pillow, it was though I went through the ceiling, so to speak, and I found myself heading upwards and entering the same black void that I saw before. I was approaching the same light I had seen before. This time, I was heading home, accepted in the beloved. I got to understand, the first time I experienced this void heading to the light, I was going to judgment. This time, I was coming home as accepted and beloved, not to judgment. And I saw the same rock suspended in the void. I heard the same music as before, explaining to me many, many, many profound truths. Many I still looking into the Bible to this very day, studying and comprehending, because it's only in the Bible that you'll find these answers, nowhere else. Then I saw that there was Jesus standing upon the same rock, not for a judgment, but to welcome me home. And there was a gate. It looked like what the Bible describes as a sheep gate. It's like a gate that's open where a person would sit or lay down, and you couldn't enter. And the only way you could enter is to go through that sheep gate. And I noticed that there was Jesus standing by the sheep gate. And it was awesome to see the Lord standing there. It's like Jesus said in John 10, that He is the door of the sheep. He's the sheep gate. And so I stood before the Lord, landed before Him again, and this time He didn't have His hood on. And I saw His face, and He was just looking at me, smiling, welcoming me home. I was standing before the Lord in the presence of holiness. People all the time ask me, what did Jesus look like? What did Jesus look like? I cannot rightly say other than He looked grand and holy. And just as what Mark chapter 16 verse 12 says, when he appeared in another form to disciples walking along the road. His appearance was like what the book of Daniel would say, as the one like the Son of Man, because his appearance would change. One minute he looked very Jewish, next minute he looked grand. He looked like the Son of Man. There's no way that I could ever really describe how he looked, because he changed. But mostly I saw him as a normal height of a Jewish person with the beard, the flowing hair, the whole thing. The picture in the Shroud of Turin is very, very, very close. Not quite.
We'll be right back after this message. The next speaker at the Prophecy Club is Brian Melvin. He was an atheist that drank contaminated water and died. He tells what it's like to die and stand before judgment, then be sent to hell with demons tormenting him. Worse than your worst nightmare. First talk is Hell in a Box. Topics: reliving my evil past, what it was like to die, first tricked inside a cell, tour of the pit, woman arriving in a cell, sex offenders in hell, rescue by Jesus. Then he was taken to heaven. Next talk is From Hell to Heaven. Topics: life after hell, the PSTD of hell, translated to heaven, match it with the Bible, Jesus the Son of Man, land of liquid love, field of reunion and reconciliation, know everything in heaven, the grand estates, the river of life, glowing for 3 days upon his return. That's Brian Melvin, Sunday morning, April 30th, at the Prophecy Club, 2540 K Avenue in Plano. Be seated at 8:30, speaking from 9 to noon. No charge. The DVD Hell in a Box and Hell to Heaven, gift of $30. His book, A Land Unknown, Hell's Dominion, gift of $20. Get both of them at prophecyclub.com. for a gift of $45, or call 785-266-1112, the Brian Melvin gift offer. DVD 30, book 20, both gift of $45, Prophecy Club, or 785-266-1112, Brian Melvin gift offer. And now, back to the program.
The flowing hair, the whole thing. The picture in the Shroud of Turin is very, very, very close. Not quite, but very close to some of the thing, what he looked like. And I recall all this like it happened just yesterday. And then the Lord spoke to me again, and He mentioned to me to just simply, Brian, pay attention to the words, my word. Pay attention to my word. Pay attention to the symbols and the signs and the patterns. Pay attention. And He was telling me that He was going to show me heaven because I saw hell, and it was going to calm me down. And you got to understand, it was like words of life coming to you, and it just began to calm my soul when He spoke. It was like living words. He spoke living words of encyclopedias of knowledge just about peace and joy. I can't even explain. And from there we walked through the sheep gate, and from the gate I saw a short pathway that kind of meandered up to a grand land that I saw beyond that, which is the current heaven. And it was partitioned off by this great, grand, big, tall wall. And it was a wall of holiness, where God is holy and separate. And as we walked up to the path there, I saw this great, big, pearly gate. It was white, had living, swirling azure blue patterns in it that were just beautiful, swirling in this. And angelic beings were coming and going and doing assignments out there. They were coming out of this pearly gate, and God was sending them to do assignments. And there was one assignment that the Lord allowed me to see. There was a minister who was having trouble writing a sermon. He was having real trouble, always being distracted, things coming up, and so the Lord was trying to teach him a lesson that he could rely on the Lord, to trust him. And so he sent an angel to give this guy a message just before, maybe a few hours before he had to go preach. So he sat at his computer, and I saw the angel come down and actually put a message and speak words into him, and he got his message, and he wrote down a brief outline. He had the best sermon he ever had. And I saw angels doing other things too. They were sent to help people, to save people's lives, to give them warnings and tell them, Jesus is coming. There were all kinds of signs these angels were doing. Someone always asked me, what do angels look like? Well, some angels had wings, some of them didn't. They looked like what the book of Daniel said, like a face of a lion, an eagle, a man, and an ox head, and 4 wings. Others looked like the archangel types you see on stained glass windows. I mean, these were grand beings, great, tall in stature. Some of them rode wheels of light, others flew with their wings. They were grand, and they were doing tasks for the Lord. Hebrews chapter 1 tells us that the angels are ministering spirits sent forth to minister to the heirs of salvation. And so we're heirs as Christians, heirs of salvations, and angels are sent from God to help us. And I'm going to just give an admonition. Don't go angel crazy, because true angels will never let that happen. And a true angel is not going to let you use them for things either. Their tasks and assignments are from God. I'll let that go right there. I was watching these angels doing their assignments, issuing forth judgment and help in time of need and stuff at the gates. And then I looked at this gate, and like the Lord said, pay attention to signs and symbols. And we began to go through this great pearly gate. And there was a long, narrow corridor going through the middle of it. And it was this grand light all about it, emanating from it. And then I looked at, the Lord directed my attention, and I looked at the walls, and it looked like they were chiseled by the nails that went through Jesus' feet and wrist, and by the spear that pierced him. These were like the marks, like this pearl was chiseled through by the nails that went through Jesus, which makes sense. The symbolism is Jesus paved the way for us to enter heaven by the work of the cross. So as soon as we walked into this long, straight, narrow passageway through the great pearl, it was like the message of the cross was revealed to me. And again, if I don't get choked up here, it was like seeing the message of the cross and what Jesus went through on the cross for us being downloaded as I walked through this thing. And Jesus was betrayed. He was put on trial. He was abandoned. He was left to die. He was made to carry these heaven burdens. And everything is what we do to each other is what happened to Jesus. And what happened to Jesus just before he was put on the cross exposes what's in our heart. The book of Jeremiah says, the heart is desperately wicked, who can know it? But the message of the cross reveals how we betray, abandon, neglect, abuse, and take advantage of each other. How we justify it. How we put people on trial in our minds. It was a message of the cross. And then, as we're getting here, where the light was coming, shining through to the other side of this great pearl, it was like I could see Jesus hanging for an instant, suspended between man and God, taking the full wrath of God. Not only our wrath as human beings, but the full wrath of God. It took our place to die on the cross for us. downloaded into me so heavy that it's hard for me to bear to see it. Even after all these years, it's just like it's just a few seconds ago. And collect myself here. And then there I was. We got to the other end of it after this great download of the cross and seeing what he did and how much he loved us. We entered a grand meadow where the atmosphere was like liquid love. And it was not some sort of wimpy love or sentimental love like we human beings think, but rather it's the kind of love that all of God's character traits shine through it. His absolute justice, His mercy, His holiness, His grace, His patience, His goodness, His truth, His eternity, His comfort, His righteousness, His uprightness. There's no injustice in God. How God is responsible to take care of us. Reneges on no gift, calling, or promises. He swears, he gives his word and swears to it, even at times to his own hurt. He's all-powerful, almighty, all-knowing, yet he's fair. That's the type of love that I felt as I was standing in this grand meadow. And I looked, and behold, this grand meadow, beautiful. The flowers were extraordinarily big, some were small, the blades of grass perfect, the trees perfect, and there was sort of the light came from the throne of God, and it was almost like a spiritual mist, like the Holy Spirit, just like the Spirit of God was there lighting up this place. And I came into this, I nicknamed it the Field of Reunion because of what was happening there. So I nicknamed this the Great Field of Reunion because of what I saw there. And I saw people coming out from behind me, entering to heaven, and I was standing there with the Lord, and they came out, and they were people who were Christians who went on before them were meeting them and greeting them there. And there were even people that were meeting, like a one man came back, and he come out of that, and he saw his dad coming to him. He said, "Dad, how did you get to heaven?" He said, I had my cancer, son, but a minister spoke to me on my deathbed, and I accepted Jesus, and I've been waiting for you to come back. His dad wasn't very nice to him. And then he got saved like the thief on the cross and made it in, and he greeted his son, and they wept, and their tears were dried, and they went on into where their spot in heaven was. I saw women who have given up babies to abortion and seeing their babies crawl up to them and turn into the kids, saying, "Hi, Mom, welcome. You're forgiven. I love you. We have eternity to spend to each other." I saw people who lost their kids meet their kids there, our little kids. It was a grand field of reunion where issues were taken care of and healing. It's like the Lord says He heals a broken heart. It was like there. All the stuff that you bear and burdens and toils of life is just removed when you enter that field of reunion. And I want to tell you, expect it, because it will happen. It will happen. Well, Stan, I think I need to take a little here to wipe some tears out of my eyes for a second.
Okay. And as he collects himself, let me remind you, he is going to be speaking Sunday morning, April 30th, at the Prophecy Club, 2540 K Avenue. That's on the corner of Park and K in Plano. We ask you to be seated by 8:30, speaking from 9 to noon, no charge. Brian Melvin, Sunday morning, April 30th, Prophecy Club, seated 8:30, speaking 9 to noon. Also, his DVD is going to be called Hell in a Box and Hell to Heaven. The DVD is a gift of $30. His book, A Land Unknown, Hell's Dominion, is a gift of $20. Get both of them at prophecyclub.com for a gift of $45. prophecyclub.com or 785-266-1112. Come and hear this guy and bring someone that is skeptical about heaven. Bring a guest, bring a guest, bring a guest. Bring yourself and bring a guest. Okay, back to you, Brian.
Oh, yes, that field of reunion where I just saw people reconciling from the past wounds and hurt that like they felt in life, and they met loved ones who they never thought would ever make it to heaven, or meeting them there because they became born-again Christians. Because the only way to heaven is through Jesus Christ, through that same gate, through the message of the cross. Only way to heaven is through that main gate, through the message of the cross. Enter that field of reunion, and there have all the wounds of life healed and washed away from you. Every tear dried, all the hurts removed. That's what I was seeing there. And the Lord motioned me forward, and he said, come. And so I followed him, and we walked along this gold road, and he showed me an overview of this heavenly city in the distance, and it's kind of hard to explain because the Lord was sort of telling me sort of like how guys speak to each other in a way. He said, where would you like to go? Would you like to see the city, or would you like to see the countryside? And he already knew my answer. I had enough of growing up in cities. And so I said, I'd like to see the countryside. He smiled and he laughed, and you got to understand, when I was overlooking the grand city, the current heavenly city, you knew where everything was. You knew there's a hall of records. You knew there's a book of life. You knew these things are there. You know the throne of God's there because the light's coming from it all. You can see this stuff from the distance, and you could see and know intuitively where everything is in heaven in an instant. You didn't need to ask directions. You just knew where things were. And you traveled just as fast as you want to walk, or you could, some people were flying, some people were riding disc of light. There were angels running around doing things it was grand to see all this stuff. And Laura was showing me in like this city, the streets were paved with gold, and out in the countryside, it was like dirt, like gold dirt. Or whatever. It was granular. It was like a dirt road packed down, a macadized road, or whatever you want to call it. It was like that. And just like a ruled road. It was gold colored. It was actually gold, And I'm going to have to ask him to hold there as we are running out of time. Again, folks, hear the whole message. Get the DVD, Hell in a Box and Hell to Heaven. Gift of $30, his book, A Land Unknown, Hell's Dominion. Gift of $20, get both of them. Gift of $45 at prophecyclub.com or by calling 785-266-1112. Come and hear him, Brian Melvin, Sunday morning, April 30, seated at 8:30, speaking from 9 to noon, corner of Park and K in Plano. It's right behind the Whataburger. Just go there to Park in Plano. You can find it, Park and K in Plano. And bring a friend. Bring someone that is not saved. Bring someone that has not been to a Prophecy Club meeting, because this is an opportunity for you to get someone that will not believe in Jesus to get saved. 785-266-1112, corner of Park and K, Sunday morning, April 30th, seated at 8:30, speaking from 9 to noon. Thanks for listening. Thank you for your gifts and your monthly support. God bless. Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. Okay, I have some good news. We are going to extend the archaeology gift offer for one more week. Here's what you get. It's actually 4 discs. You're going to get the 1991 video that I shot when Leslie and I visited Noah's Ark, the crossing side of the Red Sea, all kinds of amazing things on that 2-week tour with Ron Wyatt. That's called Archaeology Confirms the Bible. Then I made one back in 2012 called Noah's Ark Confirms the Bible, and this is explaining a lot of the things that was actually on the first DVD. Then we had Michael Root in to make 2 amazing DVDs. First one called End Times Archaeology. Second one called Dead Sea Scrolls. 4 discs, 4 titles, and is normally valued at $80, but we're making it available right now for a gift of just $40. We're going to extend it one more week. It's called the Archaeology Gift Offer at prophecyclub.com or 785-266-1112. Archaeology Gift Offer, prophecyclub.com, 785-266-1112. Last week, get it now. Lindsay now releases the shocking response of the elite in his new February 2017 DVD, Elite, The New Plan. The Elite Agenda, point by point. Reserve currency, which one? How long do we have? Why the elite changed their agenda. Money, under the new agenda. Gold and silver, now available at prophecyclub.com, 785-266-1112. Elite, The New Plan.